So, I'm excited. I got to catch my breath today. We've had some anointing. We've had some people watching us from far away. And we've had some people from out of state. Could you do me one more favor for our evacuees this morning? I want to welcome you guys. Will you please welcome them to Grace Point Church? Such a pleasure to have you guys. You are in our thoughts, our prayers, our hearts go out to you. And if we can be of any assistance, please let us know. It's been a pleasure getting to meet them over the course of the past few days. I tell you what, half our volunteers are probably personifying The Walking Dead. Because we were going around, I was up here at one point, 30 out of like 36 hours, and I'm like, so, Walking Dead, that's the sermon series we are starting today. I'm excited about it. Let me explain what this is for you, because I know a lot of people are, not a lot, some people were kind of questioning, well, how in the world are you relating to Walking Dead to church? And I want to explain that. Obviously, this is a very popular show that's premiering sometime this month. It talks about these people that walk around in the world surrounded by zombies. There's a virus that infected the world, and no matter how you die, when you die, you turn into a zombie unless you get the antidote. So they're trying to find an antidote, trying to make an antidote. In the meantime, every turn they make, they're surrounded by zombies, and they're faced with life-threatening situations 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. Well, I wanted to take that concept, and I wanted to relate zombies to sin. Because how many of you know we are in a world surrounded by sin? Constantly trying to get us, trying to grab us. In fact, I want to read something to you. Here's what the Bible says, Genesis 4:7. Let's take a look at this. Tell me this don't sound like a zombie. If you do well, will you not be accepted? But if you don't do well, what's that word? Sin is doing what? Crouching at the door. I imagine zombie trying to get through the fence. Its desire is for you. One version said its desire is to devour you. But you must rule over it. So there's all these people in this series that are running, and some don't make it. I don't know if you watch the show. Some don't make it. And it ain't pretty when they don't make it. But I'm here to tell you, some people, even in this world, aren't going to make it. And it ain't going to be pretty when they don't make it. See, sin is like this virus that walks around. And oftentimes we see it every day, but the problem is we don't identify it as sin. Have you ever seen that tobacco commercial where it has the box of cigarettes on the counter and these kids are all kind of like poking, playing with it, and it says, if you knew how bad tobacco really was, and it has like this giant spider that transforms out of the box and starts chasing them. Have you guys seen that commercial? It's the Tobacco Free America ad. It says if you saw tobacco for what it really was, you definitely wouldn't be around it. Sin's the same way. But we don't see sin in the form of a zombie or this terrible thing that can kill us. We see it in the form of a late night Friday party. We see it in the form of a 36, 24, 36 blonde-headed woman who's not our wife. Whatever it is, I don't know the measurements, but we see it in the form of, that might have been hideous, I don't know. But we see it in the form of a blonde-headed woman who's beautiful. Y'all can tell I'm not like, I don't know what size you wear, baby? I don't know, a large. Just get it. Get it, that's fine. Oh, I was talking about me. Come on, y'all, Jesus. Talking about me. Don't y'all get me in trouble. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. But oftentimes we don't see this zombie for what it is. We don't see this sin for what it is. Now, don't get me wrong. We've all sinned. I'm not up here to be like, never sin in your life. I'm too realistic for that. Because the Bible tells us in Romans, throw this up here, 6:23. Y'all trying to get me in trouble. I ain't sleeping on the cast today. I wear a large. Here's what it says. Now, sin, because we like to play around with sin, because the Bible even says there's pleasure in sin for a season, let's be honest. And I know some of those people that you used to hang out with, yeah, it was fun. It was real fun. It was real fun until you got addicted. And now you can't even pay your car payment. Can't feed your children because you're searching for that next hit. You can't pay your bills because you've got to feed the urge to drink. It's not fun anymore. There's pleasure for a season. But when that season runs out, you in some trouble. Here's what the Bible says. For the wages of sin is death. What that means is, if you live a lifetime full of sin, if that's the work you put in, the wages that you're going to draw is, but thank God, the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. Now, what was the free gift? I'm so glad you asked. John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he freely gave. That whosoever believes in him would not perish, but they would have everlasting life. So you're saying sin is this virus, but there's an antidote. I don't know if you realize that in the show, they need an antidote. Otherwise, when they die, it's going to get real ugly. In real life, there's this virus inside of us, and if we don't get this antidote, when we die, guess what? It's going to get real ugly. But I thank God for the gift that he freely gave to deliver me, because the Bible says it was not his will that any should perish, but he came that whoever, look at your neighbor and say, whoever believes in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Now, I want to show you what sin actually looks like in our life. Oftentimes, we're so taken off guard by sin because we don't recognize it for what it really looks like. So, come on up here. So, here's this zombie walking around. Now, once she was pretty on the outside, but if you could see her on the inside, whew, turn for her. Let them see. See, and this is a zombie that's got that virus, that sin. Because sin has attached itself. Remember, the Bible says sin is crouching at your door. Its desire is to have you, to devour you, to take a bite out. And here's the thing, if you allow it to do that, if it consumes you, or you partake in it and you consume it, eventually it's going to consume you. That's the thing about sin. And what we see is something that is so beautiful on the outside. On the inside, boy, it's painful. It's hurt. We don't need to touch it. I played a game with my teens called Bean Boozled. And it was these jelly beans. And on the outside, they looked like normal jelly beans. And they tasted great. You'd get one that was like fruit punch, and it was amazing. But then they had another one that looked identically like it, but it wasn't fruit punch. It was throw up. So when you ate it, it was like, oh. And what looked appealing on the outside wasn't so appealing once you got inside of it. That's how sin is. Well, you take a bite out of something that looks so good, but once you consume it and you ingest it, it ain't as good as it looked. And I know some of you can relate to this. Just go on a walk around wherever out there. Let them take a good look at you. I know some of you can relate to this because there's times in our life where we made decisions based on what we see, based on what we feel in the moment. And I realize that you and your husband are having troubles, but your coworker that's giving you a lot of attention right now ain't the answer. Because while it may look appealing in times, I'm going to promise you partake of that and you're going to get yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. And then you're going to be just like this zombie, just walking around. It has you now. It's got control over you. I want to talk to you today about a person in the Bible. One more verse. You have a choice between life and death. We talked about that. We had the wages of sin is death, but for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him would inherit eternal. So we have this constant battle of life versus death. So we've seen if we have the antidote, we make it to a great place, a wonderful place, a place that's 1,600 miles high, 1,600 miles wide, streets of gold, walls of jasper, gates of pearl. It's a pretty nice place. But there's another side to that story. Revelation 21:8. Here's what happens if we don't get it out. And I'm not saying this I know a lot of people don't preach about hell anymore. And I don't say it to scare you, but I do tell you, I do get up here to preach that it is a real place. And you need to know about it. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. You have a choice. Death, life. We have a choice that we can make each and every day because, trust you me, sin is all around us, crouching at our door. Its desire is to have us. So you must rule over it. I want to tell you a story today about a man who was the strongest man in the history of civilization. And even to be as strong as he was, he had a massive glaring weakness. And I'm going to tell you this, sin and Satan will attack you in your weaknesses. That's how he comes to get you. Because I'm going to tell you this, if he comes at me to tempt me with drug addiction, that's not going to get me. So he's going to attack me with something that I'm vulnerable to. Remember last week we talked about vulnerability. Sin and Satan, they're going to attack you, but they're going to do it in a place that they know that they can get you. Maybe it's in the form of a needle, maybe in the form of a bottle, maybe in the form of lust, maybe in the form of all of these other different things. But whatever your weakness is, he knows, and he will attack there because he's very smart. He is very smart. He's a master manipulator. So let's take a look at the story of Samson. Anybody ever heard of Samson? Very, very strong man. Glaring weaknesses, and Satan crippled him. Let's look at the book of Judges. This is going to be at chapter 13, verses 2 through 5. There was a certain man of Zorah of the tribe of the Danites whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren. She couldn't have any children. Next verse. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said, Behold, you are barren, and you haven't borne children, but you will conceive, and you shall bear a son. So this lady cannot have children. An angel appears. You're going to have a child. Sounds familiar. Apparently, if an angel comes to my wife, I'm going to be like, no, we don't need any more. God bless you. God bless you. Every time an angel appears to a woman, it's about children. The angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said, Behold, you're barren, haven't borne children. You're going to conceive a son. Next verse. Therefore, be careful and drink no wine or strong drink. Eat nothing unclean. You're going to have a child. You don't need to be drinking. You don't need to be eating anything that's going to be unhealthy for the child. Next verse. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now, there's a covenant that I'm going to give you with this son. No razor shall come upon his head. You cannot shave his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to save Israel. Remember, Israel is God's chosen people. We've talked about this. So I'm going to give you birth to a son. Don't shave his head. He's going to have incredible strength, and he's going to deliver all of these Israelites from the Philistines. So we see the birth of this guy named Samson. That's who I want to talk about. I wanted to show you that because I wanted you to see that there was a covenant, a promise that could not be broken. Do not shave his head. Whatever you do. So let's look at Samson. Very popular story, Judges 16, 1 through 30. We got a lot of scriptures. Samson had a glaring weakness. Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute, and he went into her. Well, any questions what the glaring weakness is? Boy, the Bible was pretty blunt there. I don't know what you're struggling with today, but I will tell you if it's that's not a good idea. The Bible's very blunt. You know, that's funny to me that the Bible is that blunt. People say the Bible's boring. No, it's not. Read it. It's got murder. It's got people coming back to life. It's got a prostitute. It's got all kinds of stuff. Like, how can you say the Bible's boring? You watch stuff that can't hold a candle to some of the stuff in here. Samson went to Gaza. There was a prostitute. He went into her. Next verse. The Gazites were told, now the Gazites were the people in Gaza. They were told, Samson has come here, and they surrounded the place and set an ambush for him all night at the gate of the city. How many of you know Satan will wait till your walls are down to attack? When you are vulnerable in your weakest, that's when he attacks. He's a coward. But that's when he'll attack you. When you're down. When you're on you've heard and seen the metaphor of someone hanging from a rope, I'm on my last thread. That's when he attacks. And he will cripple you if you're not careful. Look at him, he's hiding while Samson's inside sleeping. And here's what they say. They kept quiet all night. Shh, 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 shh. Let us wait till the light of morning. And as soon as he wakes up, then we'll kill him. Because how many of you know when you first wake up, Lord Jesus, when we first wake up, I'm kind of a morning person, you know. I'm like, oh, good morning. My wife, if she ain't had 2 cups of coffee, she is the walking dead. She's just, don't you talk to me. So they said, we're going to wait till he first wakes up and he's real delirious and he's kind of out of it, doesn't know what's going on. That's when we're going to attack. Because you know when you first wake up, you're like, what's going on? So, next verse. But Samson lay till midnight. He didn't stay all night. He left at midnight, and here's what he did. He arose, he took hold of the doors of the gates of the city. Now, back in those days, these were probably made of like cast iron, like something heavy. He picked up the gate, the 2 posts, he pulled them up, even including the bar. Weighed probably about 2,000 pounds. You can imagine waking up the next morning, where'd the gate go? Samson, he woke up at midnight, that man picked up the gate, and he took them all the way to Hebron, uphill, which is 20 miles away. He was a strong man. This sounds like a story of my dad when he was a kid having to go to school. We had to go to school uphill both ways in the rain and the snow. That's what Samson had to do with the gates of the city that night. I tell you that to tell you he was extremely strong. Can you imagine waking up? Governor, mayor, where are the city gates? Samson, we'll fix it. Somebody call it tow truck. We got to go 20 miles to Hebron to get it. But verse 4. After this, he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. He wrote her a song. How many of you know what the name of the song was? Hey there, Delilah, what's it like? So, Delilah. Now, we've heard this story many times. Now, one thing I need you to know about Delilah, this woman is beautiful. She is absolutely beautiful. But another thing I need you to know is Delilah is a Philistine. Remember, Samson was, what was he? A Nazarite, right? And he was meant to protect Israelites from the, so he was to have no connection at all with, it's a metaphor of us in our life with sin. Don't touch it. You're not meant to be around it. It's not meant for you. Don't you go there. Don't you mess with Delilah. But Samson, his weakness. Boy, he loved Delilah. Next verse. And the lords of the Philistines came to Delilah. Remember, she's a Philistine. They said, tell you what, Delilah, seduce him. Find out where his great strength lies, because you have to understand some of the backstory. Samson had killed thousands of Philistines. One day he took the jawbone of a donkey that was laying dead on the side of the road, beat them half to death, killing thousands of them. They did not like Samson. They feared Samson. If Samson was in town, they was getting out of town. They didn't like Samson. So the Philistines said, I tell you what, why don't you seduce him, see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him. Tell you what, if you do it, we'll give you 1,100 pieces of silver each. How much was Jesus betrayed for? 30 pieces of silver. They're going to give her 1,100 apiece for Samson. That tells you two things. Number one, they wanted Samson really bad. Number two, boy, Jesus sure was treated worse. 30 pieces of silver, and you delivered the Messiah. They're giving 1,100 apiece just to bring in Samson. Next verse. So Delilah said to Samson, remember, he loves her, please tell me where your great strength lies and how you might be bound that one could subdue you. Now you would think if somebody came to you and said, all right, do you lock your doors at nighttime? No? Okay. And do you have a home security system? No. Is there a gun in your house? No. Wonderful. Okay. Do you have expensive stuff in your house? Like if it were stolen and pawned, would it get some good money? Yeah. Great. Okay. I just was curious. God bless you. Have a good day. Oh. What's your address? Now you would think if someone came asking all them questions, you'd be like, wait a minute. Hold on. Something about to happen, Jesus. Samson, where's your great strength? How can we get it out of here so that we can tie you up and subdue you? Could you just inform me? Now you would think Samson would be smart enough to be like, woman, get thee behind. No, here's what it does. Next verse. Samson said, I'll tell you what, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, then I'll become weak and be like any other man. Now, Delilah represents sin, correct? Now he's flirting with this sin because it's beautiful. And he shouldn't even be in the conversation with her. Boy, she sure does look attractive from a distance. So she asked him a question, and just to entertain the thought of keeping her around just a little longer. I'm not going to tell you the truth. I'm going to lie to you. But I'm going to give you an answer. See, what he's doing right now is he's entertaining the enemy. Boy, I can't help myself. It just looks so good. So don't call Samson dumb, because we've done the same thing. Continue to do the same thing. Next verse. He said to her, all right, it wasn't the bowstrings. I'm sorry, I lied. Tell you what, if they bind me with new ropes that have never been used, then I'll become weak like any other man. So now he's still sitting in that chair with that zombie creeping up. He's still entertaining that thought. Still got Delilah. And he can't let her go because he loves her. He's just captivated by her beauty. And he has no business being there. And oftentimes sin captivates us because we've got to have it, right? And here comes that zombie creeping up. And Samson doesn't even realize it. Next verse. So Delilah took new ropes, bound him. She said, the Philistines are upon you, and the men lying in ambush were in an inner chamber. But he snapped the ropes of his arms, off his arms, like a thread. Next verse. Then Delilah said, until now, Samson, you've mocked me. You've told me lies. Tell me how you might be bound. And he said, tell you what. If you weave the 7 locks of my head with web and fasten it tight with the pin, then I'll become weak like any other man. What's he doing? He's lying, but what else is he doing? He's creeping closer and closer to the secret that he's not supposed to tell. First it was bowstrings. Now it's rope. Now it's, okay. It has to do with my hair. And if you'll get the 7 locks of my head, and if you'll see, he's getting closer and closer to something that he shouldn't touch. And I say that to say this. I don't think anyone woke up one day at the age of 6 years old and said, you know what, I want to be a child molester. I think what happens as a young child, you see something that you're not supposed to see. Maybe on a website. And then growing up, you do something with somebody that you're not supposed to do, and it adds fuel to that fire. And you started here, okay? Now there's the website and the pornography. Now there's the sex before marriage. Then you get married. Well, now there's an affair on your wife. And you keep going, and now you get further and further and further into this sin, and then you commit that act. And if you look back, you went so far. And that's what sin does. Draws you in slowly but surely. There's a song that says it's a slow fade when you give yourself away. Satan is smart, and he's very patient. And from a distance, we can see people walking down the wrong path. You see it each and every day with people in the world. And part of us are like, wait, no, stop, you're going the wrong way. But when you're consumed by this, and you're Samson, and you're in love with Delilah, love is blind. Don't act like y'all ain't been in some relationships that was pure hell for you until you got out of it 8 months later and then look back and realize, wow, hindsight's 20/20, but love is blind. And Samson's captivated. He starts, if you'll get some bowstrings, well, it's not bowstrings, but if you'll get new rope, well, it's not new rope, but if you'll weave the 7 locks of my hair, and he's getting closer and closer to this sin, this danger, and he's in trouble. Next verse. So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into the web, and she made them tight with the pin and said to him, the Philistines are upon you. Deja vu. And he awoke and he pulled away the pin, the loom, the web, everything. 3 times now. 3 times. Next verse. She said, you know what, Samson, how can you say you love me? How can you tell me you love me? What was Samson's vulnerability? What did Satan just use to attack him in a place where he's extremely vulnerable? I can't beat you physically, but if I can tear you up emotionally, I'll win. And he attacked right there. You say you love me. Same voices we heard last week when dealing with doubt and fear and insecurity, and you call yourself a man of God. You'll always be a bad father. Same voice, and you say you love me. Come on, Ben. Your heart's not with me. You've mocked me 3 times and haven't told me where your great strength lies. Next verse. And when she pressed him hard with her words, day after day after day after day, his soul was vexed. What's the next 2 words? For the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy to death. You say you love me. Samson hears it and replays it, and he tries to fight it, but he's got too far in now. He can't get out. So here's what he says. He told her all of his heart. He said, you know, a razor's never come upon my head. For I've been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb since birth, and if my head is shaved, my strength will leave me. And I'm going to become weak just like any other man. He committed the ultimate thing that he wasn't supposed to do. All because he flirted with Delilah for a little bit too long. And he allowed himself to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and further down this road that is leading to disaster. And Samson knew it, but he couldn't help it. Next verse. When Delilah saw that he had told her all of his heart, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, come on up again. He told me. When the lords of the Philistines came up and they brought money in their hands, she made him sleep on her knees. Sin will do that to you. It'll bring you to your knees. It'll cripple you. What looked appealing at one time, now you're bound by it. Sleeping on the knees of Delilah. Someone bring me a chair. I want you to see this. It's fine. Sleeping, thank you, brother, on the knees of Delilah. I hope everybody can see me from right here. If not, I'll get up and move. I imagine Delilah sitting in her chair. Samson is knelt down with his head in her lap. And here's what she's saying to him, running her hands through his hair. Just shh. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. It's okay. Just go to sleep. You'll be fine. And I wonder how many of us in our life today have found ourselves in the lap of the enemy. Out there in the world, doing things we know we ought not be able to, ought not be doing. Talking ways we shouldn't be talking. Taking part in things that we shouldn't be taking part in. And all the while, Satan's saying, shh, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. It's time for the church to wake up. Church, I'm here to tell you today, if you stay in the position that you're in and you don't get out, you're in some trouble, because there is a storm coming, and it seeks to devour you. But we're laying in the lap of Delilah, flirting with things that we should be flirting with. Here's what happened. She called a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. She began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, the Philistines are upon you. And he awoke from his sleep, and he said, you know what? I'm going to go out just like every other time. I'm going to shake myself free. Here's the saddest verse to me in the Bible. He didn't even know that God had left him. And my fear for some of you today is you don't realize he's not there anymore. And it's not that he left you, it's that you left him. Because you've been laying in the lap of Delilah. You've been laying in the lap of the enemy while he just plays with your hair, just rocks you to sleep. And you don't even realize that that strength, that power that lies within you, it's not there anymore. Because you've allowed sin to take the place of that. Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles and and he had to grind at the mill in the prison. So we see this once powerful, feared man of God. His eyes have been gouged out. He can't see anymore. He doesn't have the strength. And now he's just grinding at the mill, just pushing in circles. And I wonder how many of us are going through this life in circles. We are walking dead with no purpose, with no plan, because we forgot that God gave us a destiny. We forgot that God gave us purpose. And all we're doing is going through life in circles day after day after day after day after day. Church, we've got to wake up. We've got to change. Because if you do not, you'll suffer the same fate. Next verse. I'm going to get through this quickly. But the hair of his head began to grow again. Aren't you so thankful for God's grace? Some of you today, that hair's gone. But I will tell you this, it will grow back. It might take time, but it will grow back. And I'm thankful for God's grace. I can imagine Samson. Now he's hindsight, right? The situation's done. Boy, if I just would have done something different. If I just could have said no that one time. If I'd have just got out. I heard the evacuation sirens. I heard the warnings on the news. I heard the TV anchor saying, you better get out while there's still time, but I didn't. If I'd have just made one different decision, and then one day, hey, my hair, it's growing back. Here's what he said. The Lord of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, and they rejoiced and said, our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand. Next verse. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God has given our enemy into our hand, the ravager of the country who killed many of us. Next verse. When their hearts were merry, they said, call Samson that he may entertain us. What once was so scary, let's just, little puppet, dabble him around, make him do a trick for us. So they called Samson out of the prison. He entertained them. They made him stand between the pillars of the Colosseum. Samson said to the young man, let me feel the pillars. I'm blind. Just put my hands on them. The young man did. Next verse. Now the house was full. All the Philistines were there. About 3,000 men and women on the roof alone. It's a big place. Next verse. Now Samson remembered his hair, remembered that promise, remembered it. He said, you know what, God? Please remember me. I'm sorry. Please remember me. Give me strength just one more time, God, that I may be avenged on the Philistines for my eyes that they took away from me. Just one more time. I wonder how many of you today feel that in your heart. God, I know I've messed up. I know I allowed the zombie to get a little too close, and I did some things I ought not do. But God, if you could just strengthen me one more time, Jesus. Just give me one more opportunity. I know I've got a past. God, I messed up. But Lord, I remember your promise. And one more opportunity. God. And Samson grasped the two middle pillars on which the entire Colosseum house rested, and he leaned his weight against them, his right hand on one, his left hand on the other, and he pushed with all his might. And he said, God, just let me die with the Philistines, Lord. All I'm asking is for this one last chance. And then he bowed with all his strength, and the house fell upon the lords and upon the people who were in it. And the dead whom he killed at his death was more than those whom he killed during his entire life put together. Not exactly the happiest ending we could hope for, but the wages of sin is death. I encourage you today, and I'm going to open up these altars for just a few minutes. If you're here today and you don't know who Christ is, I know we have a lot of first-time guests, a lot of people we've never seen before. If you don't know who Christ is, I want to encourage you today. I'll come pray with you right here. We won't even trap you behind the barbed wire till you do. Like, you can just pray and go, that'll be that. But if you don't know Christ, I'm going to open up these altars today. If you'd like to come forward, you can. I'm also going to open up these altars. If you know Christ, but you've made the same mistakes that Samson did, flirting with disaster, flirting with the enemy for far too long, walking down a road that you knew you had no business being down, and now you're stuck. Now you're caught. Now you can't get out of the situation that you're in without some help. I want to open up these altars to you. I'm going to pray. And if that's you, will you come down here? Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for your word that you've given us today. Lord, I thank you, God, for each and every person that's gathered under the sound of my voice. God, I thank you for our friends, God, that are seeking sanctuary and shelter today. Lord, if there's anyone here who doesn't know you, God, that was the point of week 1. Lord, is to make sure that everyone knew who Christ was. Lord, we don't want to be walking dead any longer, just going through the mundane, monotonous circle of life, God. Lord, and if there's someone who's walked down that road and drifted away from you, Lord, I pray that you would bring them back to you today. Lord, I thank you for your son, Jesus, who died on a cross. I thank you for the eternal life, the everlasting life that you gave us. Lord, help us to realize with every word that we speak and every choice that we make, Lord, that we can choose between life and death. Thank you for it, Father. In your name.